Hello, thanks for joining me in this first Bulblog video diary for 2022. It's a nice sunny day, for we've been having some mild weather, and I thought I better get some video shots of the wee daffodils, the narcissus, before they all go over. If you look, there's a whole batch of them, and they'll get floppy in this. This is the U-shaped sand bed. So all these bulbs are growing just in sand, in a fairly shallow plunge, as you can see. And they've been flowering since October. So the earliest ones, of course, are now over. You can see the faded flowers, but there's plenty more to come, with stacks of buds. And now this represents a range of plants. Many of these are hybrids. It's difficult to spot a true species in here. So they're all of the Bulbicodium group. They're all, Bulbicodium itself would be close to this. This is possibly close to what I would expect of Narcissus Bulbicodium. So they're usually a bit darker yellow. And then there's all sorts in between, so we get these lovely combinations of the white ones. So there's Narcissus Bulbicodium, there's be Narcissus ramoxi, there will be Narcissus cantabricus, and albidus being the main species involved. As you can see, there's stacks of buds still pushing up. These are all floppy because they've been growing for a long time. The light's very poor in our northern garden, and there's just so many of them growing in here. They've multiplied rapidly over the years, but they really are a joy. I'm not too worried about their names and not knowing their names, because very few people would be able to put a name on them. But you just look around and you see, look at this one here, for instance. This one's got a lovely lobed corona. See the lobes? And there's obviously the same clone here. That's lobed as well. Whereas this is a nice deeper yellow form. And then we've got this form here with the wide open flared corona. And up the back we've got a grouping of white ones related to, more closely related to Narcissus albidus. And so there's masses of them here, and there will indeed be flowers in here until April, at least, from the Narcissus. So I dare say we'll be back in here again with the video camera to have another look someday in the coming months and weeks. So let me just spin around, and I'm going to move through out of this little house and into the next one where we have the pots. So all these bulbs this time are growing in pots, where we have a form of Narcissus ramoxii, but I'm not sure it's a true species. It may well be a hybrid. A lot of the plants we grow in cultivation as Narcissus ramoxii probably are more representative of a hybrid swarm or a hybrid race than a true one. They are beautiful. They're all lovely. This is a ramoxii. This is again ramoxii. Again, a slightly different colour. It's only recently the ramoxii have been coming out, and as you can see they pop up through the narrow foliage. Also in here we've got some snowdrops, some special snowdrops. We like to keep a few in pots in here. Sometimes I keep them in here to, in a way, bad use them. So that this is one that we got a single bulb of a few years ago. So by treating it a bit badly, growing it in tough conditions, you encourage the bulb to break down into lots of little ones, and that way we can then build it back up And as you can see, we don't have one bulb in this pot. There's probably at least 20 or more. And that you can do without having to chop up the bulb just by the treatment you give it, the cultural conditions. So plenty more. This one I do know I got this one. This is from seed, and this isn't called Narcissus grande, which is a naturally occurring hybrid. It's got very weak floppy stems with us. It's not great if you see it compared to some of the others. These more upright. Grande's got weak stems and floppy. But it's a naturally occurring hybrid between Narcissus bulbicodium and Cantabricus. And that's the case for a lot here. If you go down, you can see all the buds coming on this pot of Narcissus. Here we have, this is from the original collection of JCA 805, which came in as Narcissus ramoxii. But that collection may in itself have included some hybrids within that seed collection. I don't know that we'll ever find out for sure, nor that it matters, to be honest, because they're all so pretty. So some other nice snowdrops, some of the yellow snowdrops. If I come round here, this is a group of Narcissus bulbicodium. Here we have Narcissus ramoxii. This is the form I selected, Craigton Clumper. And you can see how many there are in this pot and how many more buds there are to come, and hence the reason it was called Craigton Clumper. It just, a single bulb increases quite quickly. This is that one with the lobe corona, and this is the one I would call Narcissus, the cultivar Joy Bishop, which was named by Kath Dryden. Then we've got some of the JCA 805 type ramoxii, the little white ones. So let's move on from this house and go out. You can see the sun shining. We've got beautiful sunshine. We have had for some days. It's been the most extraordinary weather this December. It's been mild for us, so the temperature's about 6 or 7 degrees. We have had some frosts, but it's encouraging so much growth in the garden, which we'll look at shortly. But I'm going to come round to the frame, look in the frames, all the pots. There's lots of snowdrops and narcissus and crocus and all sorts of other things coming away here. Come down here, there's pots of seedlings, so a nice pot of seedlings of Eranthis pinnatifida. And there's a few different pots of different forms. There's another form there, and another form there. Some I got more seeds than others. And if we come over here, we can see Eranthis pinnatifida just starting to come out now. And these are growing outside all the time, perfectly hardy. So this is one form. And down here, I don't know if this camera's going to pick up the pinkness in this one. If I look at them both together, you can see there's more pink, there's more red coloration in here. And these were original seedlings that I raised from seed I got. Just spotting something's had a flower off there. It's gone, something's eaten it or got it. I need to check. Make sure there's no slugs or snails sitting under the pot. I'll do that when I've finished the video. Here's some pots of seedlings, so mature flowering size seedlings, and then seeds just germinating. If you grow them well, you can get your very first flower from seed in 3 years. It might take a bit more if you can't keep them growing for a long time. The other bulb house with the other sand plunges are a bit later in coming because it's a different type of planting. We have got some narcissus, but slightly different ones. You'll see in here how short they are, and this is much more typical of how they should be if they're given space and light. So just a few narcissus on this side in flower at the moment. we come round to the other bed, there's a few more. But there's a lot of different bulbs in here to flower later in the year. And it was only more recently I started to, because there wasn't so much early on in here, I wanted colour. So we started to plant a few more of the narcissus out in here as well. So in that frame and on round to another frame, here we have an early crocus coming there with a small narcissus. And again a similar range of narcissus, just much fewer of them in here. Up to these big, quite big for a Narcissus bulbicodium. This is my little rake. Every time when I water, when you water the bed, which I did, was it last week, the sand goes flat and you get puddling and capping on the sand. So a few days after I water, I go over the sand, just with either the rake or the single side, depending, just to roughen it up, and that discourages moss. It allows the next time I water, the water to go in, so it doesn't form that cap. The surface is important. So let's come out. We're getting on with tidying the garden. If we look at some of the beds, now some people would think this still needs tidying up, but this is a mulch. So I like mulching. Every bed's got a mulch of some kind, organic. This is leaves that I've lifted, and one of those leaf vacuums that also shreds them a bit and breaks them up a little bit. So it was just done in the last month, and I just basically soak them up with the machine. They get shredded, and then I spread them out on whichever beds I want directly. And that's a lovely organic mulch that works for the soil, and it also works for the wildlife. The birds love finding the microfauna that's in it. This is Corydalis Craigton purple. That's a new foliage. It comes through very early. There's not so much to see out in the garden, but it's worth having a look at some of the other mulches. So this is composted mulch. So this is shreddings and hedge trimmings that's been composted for a couple of years, and it breaks down into this really light organic soil. Some old roots came through it when that got into the compost heap from one of the trees on the compost. That's what those old roots are. So that's another mulch we use. We use that in some places. But tidying up the garden's an ongoing process. We're getting some areas starting to tidy. The area at the top here, we can see so much growth coming through that it was just this weekend that I cut down the old growth that was from these plants because of all the colchicum leaves, there's allium leaves, there's snowdrops coming through there, there's Eranthis. There's all sorts of stuff coming in there, and it will be the same over here. I can see shoots, more shoots poking and appearing. The birds are always the one that will find your shoots and seedlings first. They disturb the mulch and go down. You can see the seedlings coming there, germinating. So we'll walk round the raised wall. The first of the hellebores, with a yellow hellebore in there that got really hammered. Some of the hellebores got really hammered last March, February was it, or March, when we got that terrible cold wind that destroyed a lot of the hellebores. That yellow one had 5 stems last year that were knocked back. Well, pleased to see there's 2 come up this year, so it's recovered, although slightly weakened from the damage it received to its growth last year. But good to see, here's a seedling from it down here, coming into flower now. So we just wander around. I want to come up and just have another look at another mulch. On this bed we've used a mulch of pine needles, and again the birds always are the first to find shoots and new growth. You can see new growth there, that's some kind of corydalis, and here's a seedling coming up of something there. I'll just cover it over again. It could be a young Eranthis pinnatifida because I've planted them out in here. Some of the areas under the trees and stuff, we just basically use the leaves as they fall. Most of our leaves are smaller leaf trees, so we can just leave them. That's a nice mulch there. The birds, of course, I keep sweeping it back into the beds and away from the edge, and the birds will dig it out and throw it about. So I put it back in the bed and they throw it out of the bed, and that's just an ongoing process. Here's a bunch here, a bunch of leaves. There's the edge of the bed, and there, so I can get them and put the leaves back in. As you can see, all around there's the shoots, crocus here coming through. There's narcissus, bulbicodium with the buds, flower buds on it. Another type of mulch is the last year's shreddings. So the shreddings over there I showed you were 2 or maybe even 3 years old. These are less than a year old. So these were shredded in August, July and August, probably early August. And they've just been shredded and composted and then spread out as an organic mulch. And as you can see, the plants will soon come through it. And these organic mulches feed the soil, and feed the soil then feeds your plants. Just nature's way. I love the way the light comes in and runs across the bed. It's not so easy to see because these cameras can't cope with the high contrast between the light and shade, but it's a lovely time of year between the light and shade where you get like some of the plants picked out as a spotlight. So we have snowdrops out. These are some of the first of the new season snowdrops. And here again you'll see the beds mulched with a leaf, shredded leaf. All around the Silmesia, surrounded by snowdrops. There's allium leaves coming through. There's more hellebores and everything in this bed. As I come round to this little bed, even the earliest signs of some of the hepaticas just starting to come. But it is a lovely day just to have a wander in the garden. So unusual for us to get this kind of weather at this time of year. We've not seen the last of the frost. We will get frost. We will get cold. And often February, March are our coldest months. So we'll see what happens. We just have to accept the weather and work with it. So thanks for joining me on this, the first walk of the year. Bye for now.